Hey, thanks for joining us for another round of Mums at the Table. It's your girl Fiona back here to talk this, that and the other with these fabulous ladies. Shona, how are you?
Good, and you?
Very good, thank you. Melody in the red. I love the red. And Julie, good to see you.
Thank you, Fiona.
And I see you're popping with that yellow. Now, coming up, should your in-laws be allowed to discipline your child, or have you ever been caught off guard by their disciplinary actions? Talking about being caught off guard, what does your online footprint reveal about you? Or better yet, your child's online footprint. Gia and Olive make a delicious satay sauce, and later in the show, radio host, author and Christian speaker Danielle Sinnott is here to talk about her journey with anxiety and how God has worked in her life. But first, what did you do to prepare for the birth of your child? From antenatal, the birth to postnatal, Kathy Frey, a senior midwife, author and maternity consultant, recommends looking after your body, mind and spirit in all three stages of pregnancy, with things like finishing work at 32 weeks, drinking rescue remedy during labour and organising food delivery post-baby. Ladies, we've all been there. Well, I hope we've all been there. There wouldn't be mums at the table otherwise. What was your experience, or what was the most beneficial to you during your experience of pregnancy?
Well, the most beneficial thing that I found from what Kathy actually recommended was the home delivery of food. I didn't get the home delivery in that sense, but my church community, they all made food and froze it, and so we could just put it in the freezer, and so whenever we needed food we could get it.
Was that post or during?
That was post.
Right.
And so that was really helpful in that sense.
Yes.
Because, yeah, you just don't have time for anything else.
What about you, Julie?
I
What
didn't
was your
think that
experience?
far ahead. It probably would have been a good idea. We did some classes before and then off to labour. We didn't really think that much about it.
Yes, I was thinking that. Do you think it's important to do those antenatal classes, the breastfeeding classes? Because I did breastfeeding classes and it helped. It actually helped us because we had no clue. What about you, Shona?
I didn't do very much of anything. No. It sort of just all happened by nature. We did antenatal because it was Gary's first, so I thought, well, he probably needs to know what's going to happen.
I actually think it's beneficial though for our partners because it's all kind of blood and gore. Sort of.
I think they do a lot more though. We didn't have breastfeeding classes.
No.
I don't think it was a thing. And I did struggle with breastfeeding, but I was really lucky. My sister-in-law is a midwife and she came and stayed with me for 2 weeks after the baby was born. And so I was really lucky. Otherwise, I had no clue. I'd hardly touched a baby. I hadn't nursed other people's babies, really wasn't interested in other people's babies. So it was a big shock. So whatever you can do to prepare is probably a good thing.
But yeah, back to the antenatal though, like you know how she said that you should stop work from 32 weeks? It sounds quite early for all of us who work, right to the end. But I actually would have done that if I knew better now. Like I worked right up to 38 weeks thinking that, I have plenty of time to rest and relax, whatever it is. Baby came at 38 and a half weeks. So I did wish that I stopped earlier.
Looking back.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would do differently when you think about having the babies and postnatal?
Maybe not have some.
Oh, really? Well, you're a grandmother now.
I'm a grandmother
so
now.
I'm sure you're full of wisdom and you've got so much advice. What's the best tip you've given to your...
Look after yourself.
Look after yourself.
When the baby sleeps, you sleep. Yeah, that's my advice to every new mum. When the baby sleeps, you sleep.
That's so easy to say, though.
Yeah,
that
everyone
was so
tells
hard
you
for
to
me
do
to
that,
do
but
that.
it's hard to do
Yeah,
it.
because there's always like washing to do, there's cooking to do.
Yeah, but who
everything else.
cares? The washing's still going to be there.
My sister-in-law gave me some great advice. I came home with this baby, and the baby was crying, and I'm going, do I pick the baby up? Do I not pick the baby up? If I pick her up too soon, she's going to get spoilt and be damaged. If I don't pick her up, she's going to think she's abandoned and she'll be damaged. And I said to my sister-in-law, do I pick her up? And she goes, she's your baby. If you want to pick her up, pick her up. If you don't want to pick her up, don't pick her up.
Yeah.
So I realised, you're overthinking this a bit.
You definitely need
let
to
it go.
mentally prepare yourself because there's a mental game. I know sometimes we go in with a plan. This is how it's going to work out. And this is what's
Don't
gonna
go
happen.
in with a plan.
Don't go in with a plan.
Even with giving birth, do not go in with a plan.
Yeah.
Just go with what happens.
Go with what God wants to
Well,
happen.
have a plan, but be flexible.
Yeah.
You know.
Like I went in going, I'll have all the drugs.
Yeah.
I had all the drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know some people get really disappointed when they don't, get what they want. But I know it's important, like you were saying, look after your body. There's exercise that we need to exercise during pregnancy. Alicia is our personal trainer, resident personal trainer, so you should definitely check out some of her exercises postnatal and during your pregnancy. But thank you, ladies, for sharing your insights. Now, for the full scoop on preparing for your baby, be sure to get the May issue of the Mums at the Table magazine. It features some great reads, recipes and hacks. All you have to do is email your postal details to hello@mumsattetable.com and we will send it to you for free. But switching gears, has your child ever Googled your name and come across what I like to call boast posts, where proud parents can't help but share their child's pictures and updates online with anything from milestones, outfits, cutest moments and everything in between. In essentialkids.com, a 4th grade kid was surprised to see baby pics and stories that her mum had posted about her as an infant. Ladies, does anyone here post about their children on social media?
Wasn't around when my kids were little.
Well, I write, right? I'm a writer.
Yes.
And so I do write about Elliot and stuff like that. But I really do try to be very careful about not being too revealing or too intimate about what I write because, yeah, I don't want him to come back and when he's really can read and write and go, what are you telling people about myself?
Well, that's exactly what happened with this this girl in 4th grade. She actually said to her mum, she was a writer too, why are you putting these photos up of me? And obviously when she was young, it was probably cute to the mum and she was sharing stories. So I think you're very wise in terms of like being more reserved with Elliot. Do you put photos up of him though? I mean,
Not publicly, no.
Not publicly. There's so many proud moments that I love sharing about my kids.
Oh, do you?
We don't doubt that.
I do, but I think it's because I'm so happy. I want to share.
Do you ever think about it?
I don't put any nude pics up.
Okay.
But now that I've been like exposed more to social media and the
But
child
hold on,
issues
you're a
and all that.
marketing person. This is
But
what
I'm not trying to market my kids. This is not. This is not Kardashians. This is the
you know what the footprint is going to leave. Like I had this conversation with my boys when they were 10. Flip it the other way, and I went, whatever you put on social media is going to live with you for the rest of your life, including when you want to go and get a job, they will Google you.
Yeah.
So whatever you put up on whatever cloud, wherever,
Yes.
they're going to find it. And so my boys have never taught me how to upload photos and do all of that.
Because we don't.
They don't want me to upload stuff. The only thing I ever do is happy birthday Joshua or Aaron and da-da-da-da. That's it. Because for me, it's an invasion of their privacy. I wouldn't like somebody posting stuff of me online.
That's another thing, which brings me to, there's so many, you go to children's parties and people post up photos of children.
Oh,
It's a minefield.
That gets me really, well, not so much birthday parties and stuff like that, but it's really annoying when people
Really?
take photos of your kids and then they don't ask for permission and then
Yeah.
they just post it online.
See, these are all new rules that we have to come to terms with, I think, in this social media age, because I know I've been put up on putting a family photo up that featured a kid that one of the mums didn't want her child on social media. So I took that photo down. But I guess it's something that we definitely need to think about.
Social media is such a minefield.
It's a new
It really
thing. And I
is.
think we're still, we've got teething issues. We're still figuring out where we want to go.
I had to have that conversation with my daughters about interacting on their social media as adults. Now they are. Like, how much did they want me to interact? Because I got told not to do something once, and so I've had to be more careful.
And especially as adults, they have the right to be able to say yes or no. But when it's a small child, like a 4 or 5 year old, and that's going to last the rest of their life, and you've put it up there, and even if you take it down, it's still somewhere there, surely,
I think even as Christians, like how we portray ourselves with people on person, like, there's one thing to be portrayed one way in social media, but what about in person? What impressions are you leaving as a Christian person interacting with everyday people, not just your friends?
Yeah.
Have you thought about that, Shona?
Always. When I come out of the supermarket and I'm not in a good mood and I've got my tracky decks on and no makeup, I'm like,
Yeah.
What about you, Julie?
Yeah, it gets me a little bit frustrated when I see people put something up on social media, but they tell me exactly the opposite, and I kind of struggle with that a bit. So I tend not to put very much up at all.
I agree.
And
that gets me up the wall when people try and put a certain persona about themselves, but the reality of it is different. And I
because at the end of the day, we're all human. Even though we're Christians, we still make mistakes.
But I think there's a fine line between a lot of people posting and boasting about their achievements, but also that validity. We're looking for validity from the wrong places when we should be looking for validity from God. Look, good insights there, ladies. For the most part, we need to remind ourselves that these cute babies that we post about grow older and might not share the same enthusiasm to having their baby photos online. But we'd love to hear your thoughts. Reach out and let us know on social media. But now, something that you can boast about online is Gia and Olive's satay sauce. Let's check this out.
High five, let's go. What are we making? Can you tell everyone? Can you tell?
Satay sauce.
We're making satay sauce. Actually, we're making a very easy satay sauce. Can I tell you, those satay sauces you buy from the shops are full of rubbish. So I've just wanted to show you an easy recipe, because if you come home from school with the kids and you're like, what can I make? Frozen vegetables, grab them out of the freezer, throw them in a pan, saute them a little bit and throw this sauce in it and put it on top of rice, and the kids will love you for it, and they'll be getting their veggies and protein from the peanut butter you're going to use. So let's make it. Do you want to help me? Okay, what are we putting in first? Remember what we said, okay? What are we putting it in? The peanut butter first. Can you put the coconut milk in? Okay, so can you put this in for me? And this here is just your Thai red curry, any Thai red curry. And if you want to put less in, so that the red curry really helps it make it satay tasty. And you can put the soy sauce in for us. And soy sauce, that's it. That was it. 4 ingredients, and then we just mix and mix and mix until it's really mixed in well. And you can use this as a dipping sauce. The kids like dipping like carrot sticks in it, or like veggie sticks or whatever it might be. You might even use crackers. You might even make some spring rolls, which we'll do on another episode. There we go, and we mix it through until it's all mixed. Okay, you ready? Are you gonna help pour this? Okay, you hold it still. Okay. You hold it still, Momo. Oh, there we go. And there's our satay sauce. Yum! There you have it. Thank you. Can you put some of those on top? Yeah, there we go. You have it. Satay. We are here to make healthy easy for you and your children and your family. Okay. Say bye. See you next time. Okay, you too.
Now, for more easy-to-make recipes, we're giving away copies of this Sanitarium cookbook, Everyday Essentials. All you have to do is write into us with your name, postal ID, and the title of this recipe book, Everyday Essentials, and we will send it out to you for free. Now, onto a topic that may stir the pot. Are your in-laws allowed to discipline your child? One mother was so shocked by her father-in-law's approach to disciplining her daughter, she shared her story on essentialkids.com, saying she was not okay with how her father-in-law had grabbed her daughter and screamed at her over what she says was a minor behavioural issue. The mother has since stopped visits to the in-laws until the grandfather seeks professional help.
I agree.
Really?
I agree.
So in-laws don't discipline my child, don't...
Oh, I'd be really angry if my father or my father-in-law grabbed my kids and yelled at them. That's my privilege as a mother.
Right.
So what
theirs.
if they don't grab your child, but they just, speak sternly and say that you should not be doing this? Is that okay?
If it's life-threatening, then that's okay.
What if you're not there and they're looking after children? Because there's so many grandparents look after their grandchildren these days while
And
they
there's
work.
so many aunties as well that look after their nieces and nephews.
Yeah, so if they're not there and you're actually looking after it because the parent's not there, they're going to have some
Grab
way-
their child and yell at them?
No, but I think you have to have that discussion. If you're looking after your grandchildren, you need to have that discussion. How do you want me to discipline your
Yes.
children and put some boundaries
Yes.
around, and then... Because it's the parent's decision, really, surely.
And kids are going to be naughty, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
no denying that kids will
Yeah.
be naughty.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to, I find that then you will have to do the disciplining, but not the whole grabbing and yelling or something.
And
No.
I
That's
want...
her perception. That's this mother's perception
But
of
she
what
was
she
there.
said. She was there. She was present when her daughter had acted up or whatever the situation.
So in a situation, if you're with your friends or you're with your cousins and whatever,
Yes.
and their children muck up, do you step in and say something, or do you just stand back and let the parents discipline?
No, I
Because
have.
I know what I'd do.
I have stepped in and disciplined.
Oh, I stepped in too.
I have.
I find it really hard to step in when the parent's there, because
Yeah,
I
I
think it's the
wouldn't be.
parent's responsibility. If my child's mucking up and another parent has to step in, I'm embarrassed that
Yep.
I'm not doing my job,
Yep.
I have to say.
I would get really offended if somebody, and it has happened where some members of my family have disciplined my children and they've not done it in a way that I think is appropriate to the children.
So have you disciplined another family members or even another child? You've never addressed any other... Oh, so there's all good behaving kids around.
If they were in my house, I would say, please don't do that or whatever. But I would tell the parent when they came back. But I haven't done it when, say, your children are with you and you're there. That's not my place to discipline them.
But if they haven't seen their child act up and their child's being disrespectful to you or acting up, then I think it is, as an elder in the family, it is my position to
And if you're looking after that child on behalf of the parent, you're kind of a proxy parent in that situation. So surely you have to...
But like you said, you need to work that out before they leave the child.
Do you think it's a cultural thing? Because I think with Islanders, all our elders, we are brought up to respect no matter what. So if an older is telling you, don't do that, you don't do that. And so I think sometimes with the European countries, there's bans on smacking children. I'm not saying I'll go smack them, but I mean, like, I do sternly address some of our children. And in Asian cultures, respect is as well is a big thing that they push on. Do you think it's a cultural attitude that we have, like,
maybe it is,
don't touch my kid, it's my job?
Because I think so, because I think that because I'm the older one, I have the seniority. I'm not gonna be abusing your kid, but as the job of the adult, I have the job to teach you how to do the right thing.
Yes, and it's a village. Even in Africa, like, they're raised by the village. And that's another thing. You're raised by the village, but what? We can't be disciplined by the village?
Well, but my children weren't raised by a village. I stayed home, I looked after them. Even at church, it was my job to discipline the children, or Gary's job. We didn't expect somebody else to discipline the children. We did it. So mine weren't raised in a village,
I was a bit like that, and I was more embarrassed if my children were spoken to by other people, because I thought, this is my job, I'm not doing my job properly. They shouldn't have to.
It definitely gets complicated when parents don't set boundaries for behaviour from the get-go. Each child is different, and obviously when it comes to discipline, one size does not fit all, as we can see here. But now it's time for some life tips.
And talking about Project You, I really like this one because often we can feel really selfish when we draw attention to ourselves and I guess do self-care in some kind of way. When you talk about being, I guess, the best version of you in your language, how would you kind of describe that?
Yeah, I love how you've said that, because I think we can feel like we're being indulgent or like we don't have a right to look after ourselves. And actually, when we think about making ourselves an important project, we're making an investment in us. And it's actually the most important investment we can make. And by project, if you think about what people do when they're running projects, they set deadlines, they consult with experts, they get really clear about what success will look like. And so why wouldn't we do that for ourselves?
So how do you find out what then would look like success for you? Because we're humans, there's a lot of different dynamics at play. How do you work that out?
Yeah, I love this question, Laura, because I think we can get lost in what success actually means. We think about what our family and friends want for us, what people have told us success should be, and making yourself a project means, do I know what makes me happy? You know, do I know what relationships really matter to me? What's the stuff that feeds my soul and makes me feel really excited when I get up in the morning? And also, am I getting the learning that I need? You know, am I getting a bit uncomfortable sometimes?
That's actually a really good thing to mention, that almost self-development kind of side of things. And particularly if you're watching as a mum and thinking about how to even find the time to do these kind of things, what are some practical steps to begin this process?
It's a real challenge, isn't it, finding the time? But I think the first thing is be mindful that there's consequences when we don't. You know, all of a sudden we're going along to get along and we're stuck in all the things that need to be done, and 5 years have passed. So practically speaking, carve out some time for you, find someone that you can have a good conversation with, who can ask you some really good questions, and then thirdly, make a plan. Get a plan.
Okay, so big notepad is kind of a good place to begin then.
Absolutely.
I like it. Lisa, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And you can find more from Lisa on her website, and also follow us, Mums at the Table, on socials.
Statistics statistics indicate that anxiety affects 1 in 4 people in Australia, which is why joining us for a chat about her personal battle with anxiety is a woman on the go, CEO and founder of braveenough.org. She's a counsellor, radio host and a Christian speaker. Please welcome Dani Sinot.
Thanks, Fiona. Thanks for having me here. So exciting to be with you.
It's good to have you here. Now, just talking on anxiety, you've got a plethora of a portfolio. You've got a hectic schedule, but I know that you have suffered with anxiety. Can you give us a bit of a background as to how you discovered about that and also your journey with anxiety?
Yeah, I think anxiety for me was something that's very generational. My grandma, my mum, myself, and one of my children as well also struggle with it. So, I can remember even as a teenager having panic attacks.
Right.
Mum
so it started
knew
quite
what they
young.
were. Yeah. And probably, when I really think about it, probably even as a child. But in my adult years after I lost a baby, it really reared its head during that experience of grief to the point that I couldn't even leave the house. So it had become very debilitating, heart palpitations, not being able to breathe, having this feeling that, I guess impending doom, feeling shaky, not being able to eat, losing a ton of weight. It can be really severe.
It progressively got worse over the years, would you say?
Yeah.
From when you were a young child?
Look, I think for me it was more, there were seasons of it, like when life was overwhelming or I had to process or deal with something and not having those strategies in place, and certainly at that point in my life not having faith.
So Dani, what were some strategies? What have you done over the years to help?
Oh boy, look, I think that's been a real journey, Julie, but certainly faith has been a big one. Realising that God is the one that's in control when we feel out of control. And essentially that's what anxiety is. It's that feeling of being out of control. Certainly I think diet, sleep, massive. But the big one I think is our thought processes. Like we tend to go in our anxiety to the what ifs. What if this happens? What if that happens? And creative people, as I am, tend to do that. We're future thinking and it's so easy to go there. So a strategy that I used was, instead of saying what if, it was so what.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm kind of curious though, because you lost your baby, and then you have 3 now. How did you go through? How did you overcome? What was your thought process to get from that anxiety with the first baby?
Yeah. Well, look, the subsequent pregnancy with my daughter Hannah was an anxious one because, are we going to lose her again? Was it something I did? Really, until I had her in my arms. In fact, I was so anxious during the birth that I was holding her in. They ended up having to give me an epidural and suction her out in a hurry. But once she was born, it went for that period of time.
So you talk about faith and you talk about how that played a big part in recovering from anxiety. Can you talk to us more about that and how you discovered your journey with faith and having God impact on your life?
Well, my faith journey started before my healing from anxiety did. So I think that's been a progressive thing. But when it really came to the crux, like the last big bout that I had with it, where I really thought I need to overcome this because it's affecting my kids.
Right.
I can't function. I can no longer minister because I had to literally stop speaking, my television work, my ministry, everything. And God walked me through that journey, sent people to, guide me through. But as far as a faith thing, it really was about trust. Do I believe who God says he is? Do I believe that God is love? Do I believe that God is in control? And when I look at the examples of people with anxiety in the Bible, so for example, Moses felt so underqualified, all of that kind of jazz, was being called into something huge, and God just kept saying to him, I'm with you. But what if this happens? What if that happens? Well, I'll do this and I'll do that. And so I started to play that out in my own life, in trust in God, like really trusting who God was. And when you get to that place of, God is the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning and the end, God is the tabernacle of God, God in us, God is Emmanuel, God in us, we are never then out of the presence of God.
How do you get there? How do you get there?
It's a journey. It's a journey. And I think you really need to choose to believe even when you don't see it. And
It's
I think
little steps, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
giving trust into the little moments and acknowledging them, and then being able to say, okay, so next time I'm going to put my trust back into you, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's that.
And it's not-
little journeys.
Yeah, but it's the not. There's a fabulous book called. Oh my gosh, Dr. Claire Weeks, Self-Help for Your Nerves, and she talks about floating through it rather than fighting the anxiety.
Right.
But I think there's also a premise there that's so valuable in overcoming it, which is that you cannot conquer what you will not confront. You really do have to feel the fear and do it anyway.
Okay, so
And
just
that's about being brave
stepping-
enough to do that.
Thinking back, like, so you're saying you need to conquer it, you need to face it. How do you know when you're going through it that I've got some serious issues going on
Yeah.
here? You know, how do you,
Well,
because
it
a lot of us...
interferes with daily life. So for me, you know, I was having palpitations and things. I was constantly stressed. I got to the point where I couldn't drive the car because I was too anxious. So when it starts to interfere,
Yes.
and you know, you notice that your life's getting smaller. So like, say you're in the world and you're in a big box, right? Like a massive box. You can do anything you like in that box. When you have anxiety, all of a sudden, like say you have a panic attack in the car, well, no longer now can I drive the car.
Just stop.
And then if I don't drive the car, well, I'm not leaving the house, so I'm in a smaller box. And just as the box gets smaller and you end up agoraphobic or whatever that looks like for you, because there's different types of anxiety, in coming back out of it, you just have to push the boxes back out. So just step by step. And when you're really anxious and your body's sensitised and you're so nervous and you're not eating and whatever, there is a certain amount of time where you do need to do some pulling back and you do need to self-care and you do need to reduce your schedule. But when you're coming out of it, it's important to challenge yourself, but not avoid.
You said a key word before, brave enough. Now, that's also the name of your foundation,
Yeah, our charity.
your
yeah.
charity. Can you talk to
Brave
us about Brave Enough?
Yeah, so Brave Enough is a charity, a registered charity in Australia. And Brave Enough is all about being real and doing life together to help people face their challenges and emerge stronger. So basically, that challenge could be anything. It might be anxiety and depression. It might be overcoming abuse. It might be that God's calling you to do something really special that you find is, you know, maybe a bit scary and you want to step into that calling. It could be anything in the world.
So Brave Enough is a tool that people can go to.
Yeah, so it's a
and
website,
be equipped, right.
essentially, that we have. There are different life topics that we have there with some resources. We do inspirational daily devotionals to encourage people. We've got a blog and a podcast. We've got events that we do too. Recently we had a conference called Beautifully Broken.
Right.
And the theme for that was, what if your biggest mess becomes your most beautiful message?
Oh, say that again.
What if your biggest mess becomes your most beautiful message? And that's essentially what God did for me. You know, I had all the media and the ministry going on and I had that anxiety and I was able to work through it. And, you know, I had abuse and different things as a child too that I've worked through. And so, you know, I'm living proof of what God can do.
Yeah.
And it's so true. Even in the Bible, you know, we see that so often, that God just takes the worst circumstances in our life and turns them into our biggest blessings and our biggest message. And I think if there's one takeaway that I would say to someone today, it would be that don't be afraid of stepping into that. Don't be afraid. Trust what God has for you, because, you know, when we're working in our gifts,
So
and
true.
do what He wants, it's beautiful.
Thanks so much, Danny. Thanks so much for sharing your story with us, and God bless your ministry. Ladies, thank you so much for the chat, and thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to share, like and subscribe if you're watching us online. Until next time, have an awesome week. God bless.